Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Oh, come on, y'all can do better than that. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to New York City. Woo! Okay, I'm the only one excited. Welcome to New York City. All right, my name is Jeff Noel. I am the founder of Barbershop Speaks. We started Barbershop Speaks in 2016 based off the idea that people do not go to barbershops only for haircuts, but they go for conversations, they go for community, they go to find out what's happening on the streets, what's happening with foreign policy. They talk about religion and politics and sports and all that inside barbershops. And I said, what would happen if we become intentional about the dialogues that we are having inside barbershops? So since I started Barbershop Speaks in 2016, we've had amazing conversations about politics where we would bring in sitting senators, mayors, sitting representatives to speak with the people about what's happening in Tallahassee and in DC, and we would actually register people to vote inside barbershops. We've had conversations on mental health awareness where we would bring in counselors and therapists to speak with men and women inside barbershops and beauty salons. We've had conversations on financial literacy where we would bring in experts to teach people about finances inside barbershops. And so right now, I am ultra delighted because we are in the middle of a series called Crypto Convos. All right? So say yes if you are excited about Crypto Convos. Yes. Say yes if you're excited about Crypto Convos. Yes. Amazing. And so a lot of us have heard about crypto. We've seen people sell digital rocks and apes for hundreds of thousands of dollars. We heard about people who became instant millionaires off of Dogecoin and Shiba and all these other coins. We've heard about people who became wealthy off of Bitcoin and people who may have lost money off of Bitcoin. And there's a lot of conversations right now, online and on social media about crypto, some positive, a lot that's negative. But at the end of the day, I want for us to have a conversation on what exactly is it. So this conversation is not about how to become a millionaire overnight, right? Because you should have played the lottery if you wanted that, all right? That was a joke. 1.2 billion, I didn't get a lottery ticket? Okay, all right. And so this conversation about the technology behind crypto. What is it? Why does it matter? What direction are we headed in the future? And so we have amassed a lot of influential people, folks who have been in the space for over a decade, people who lead organizations on crypto to come in. Because, inside a barbershop, everyone likes to sit on stage and, sit in the chair and act like they know what they're talking about when they have no idea. And they just read a tweet and they think that's education, right? And so my goal is to bring in experts to sit down and speak with us and have conversation and educate the community on crypto. And so I am delighted that all of you are here. So please give yourselves a round of applause for coming. It really means a lot from the bottom of my heart that all of you are here, that you're here to support, you're here to learn, and you're here to engage. So I'll be remiss if I don't shout out my sponsors. So I'd like to thank Uniswap Grants Program. I'd like to shout out Aave, also the BitPoint as well. You're going to hear from Blockchain Boldre, so give the BitPoint a round of applause. We wouldn't be here without them. I would like to thank Near as well. Give Near a round of applause. Near NYC is in the building. Give them a round of applause. Thank them so much. And everyone that's here, they contributed to what we're doing in some shape or form. And so I'd like to thank them for all that they're doing. We're about to get started with the first conversation. What I like to do before we dive deep into crypto and talk about the crypto policy panel, I want to have a quick conversation with a gentleman named Amir, founder of BuzzBox USA. He has been doing incredible work in the community, giving free haircuts to kids in low-income communities. We've been speaking for many, many years. And so he has been a mentor for me in this barbershop space. He actually, I don't even know if I can say this, but he had like a TV show he had a TV show many years ago, inside a barbershop. And so he's just been doing amazing things. And so I want to publicly thank him for his mentorship and guidance. So I want to bring him to the front and we'll have a quick conversation. All right. Mr. Amir, how you doing?
Pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Hey, New York, how's everybody doing? You happy to be here? I can't do it like Jeff, but I try.
You got to start with good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That's trademark.
Yeah. So Amir, may you tell the good people who are you and what you do?
So I think you said it best. I founded a barbershop many years ago in Miami, which was a chop shop, and it started me in the process of, building community. We would do community events all the time. I got into doing haircuts for the community. All the organizations would call. Then it got to the point where the demand exceeded my ability to pay for it. So, without, getting too far into the process, I knew that it was possible to get somebody else to pay for it. So I started to reach out in the community, got a lot of, community partners, brands, individuals, celebrities. Everybody's a celebrity in Miami. So every so often when I needed money, they would sponsor haircuts, right? They would pay for Overtime Youth Center, Tacosi Center, Boys and Girls Clubs. And then it started getting to the point where I was like, man, I think I can make this into a business because I was tired of dealing with, the business of running a barbershop. There's a lot of drama. Great space. I love it. I've been in it for over 20 years. I started the idea of funding haircuts for kids in 2009. Went into the nonprofit world, failed multiple times, right? That world is very dictated by time and accolades and accomplishments. And then I also felt while I was raising money for haircuts that I couldn't compete with some of the other amazing foundations that were doing great work. And I'm over here like, can you pay for haircuts? And they're like, no, we support breast cancer. And I was like, oh, well, okay, so I'm losing. So it got to the point where I got frustrated. My background has always been marketing, sponsorship, media. So I said, you know what, let me go back into the for-profit world. And I turned BuzzBox into a for-profit corporation selling marketing. And if you see the assets outside, that one was sponsored by the New Jersey National Guard. And that's a pretty big contract. It's a government contract. But within that contract, we're in the community cutting hair at high schools, colleges. Underserved at risk is really my top two focuses. And I think all kids are at risk. So, it's really a mentorship program. And when I changed it into a mentorship program, that's when I started to get more support, even though there was a lot of support. I can't be mad at that. But I'm over here thinking global, and I'm in Miami, can't get out of Miami. So I'm like, this isn't going to work. So I repositioned my perspective on how to do it globally. And from there, I started to try to put together, the puzzle on how to expand local, regional, national. And right now I have contracts in Miami, New Jersey, New York. We're about to close Hawaii. We're looking good.
Oh, yeah.
Haiti, we did haircuts in Haiti. Remember that? You were there for that. But I think every child, everyone needs a haircut. I mean, there's no mistake about that. A lot of us can afford. Everybody came here looking amazing. So we know how important it is to look our best. But a lot of kids and homeless adults who can't afford the haircut doesn't mean that they shouldn't receive it. And there's a lot of amazing companies like Near, I won't put them on the spot, but they can fund some haircuts out here. And that's the whole point. You work within every community. There's community representatives that would love to facilitate something in their community directly. And as we were able to do that, we can expand and have different organizations, because no one can do it all except for Jeff Bezos. And if anybody knows him, Jeff, you know him.
Not yet.
You can get to him.
We share the same first name, but we're...
That's right. So if you can get to him,
we
need some of those Amazon vans doing haircuts in the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So.
Thank you. And so this is Crypto Convos. So if you could just quickly tell us, why crypto is important. Like, just give us, brief, and then any last words after that.
I think crypto is so new. We're right at the forefront of it, and if you're able to watch and see the trend, you'll know that in the next couple of years from now, it's going to be very important.
Yeah.
Right. So it's easy to be afraid of technology and what is happening new. So a lot of people are very hesitant in getting in, and they'll wait. But this is one of those opportunities where you shouldn't wait. Right. You should at least get involved. And something like this is great because this is an introduction in some cases. Right. So the hardest part about getting into something like that, regardless of who you are, is the fear of really not knowing. Right. So as you get familiar with crypto and you see the benefits of it, and then you start to apply that knowledge and get involved, you'll be grateful starting earlier than later. And that's why for us, focusing on haircuts with the youth and then introducing crypto, introducing financial literacy and all these important things that they don't really teach you in school, you give them an early start. So that's big kudos to you for introducing it into a world where this community per se, although they talk about everything, they're not going to take action unless they feel like everybody around them is talking, and then they can feel comfortable reaching out, say, I don't really know what the hell they're talking about, but can you explain it to me? And then you get that knowledge. So it's all, knowledge is always, the key.
Good. And any final words?
No, I'm just, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to speak. More importantly, share what we're doing in the community. We have a tremendous goal. And, for us, I always like to say, if you can't support us to do the work of helping a child get a haircut, there's a barbershop in your community. Like, take somebody that and you take them right over there. You really don't need us, right? Yeah. So if you could do that once a month, if you could do that as often as possible, and you're basically mentoring almost like the big brother, big sister model. I call it big barber, big stylist. And what you're really doing is you're giving someone who normally wouldn't be able to afford to look better, an opportunity to feel better, and then hopefully encourage them to do better. Yeah, I love it. You already know. So take somebody to the barbershop or go to buzzitforward.com. I'll be happy to do it for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you give him a round of applause?
Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much, Amir. As you heard, he's doing phenomenal work. And so our next panel is actually a crypto policy panel. More gentlemen that are doing phenomenal work. I'm going to introduce one of them, and he's going to introduce the rest. And so it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce the chairman of the Cryptocurrency Task Force of Dade County, Elijah John Boldre. May you give him a robust round of applause. And so, that's right. Boldre has been in crypto for over a decade, and so you will see his passion, you'll see his heart, you'll see his intelligence for not only for the blockchain, but also for us, for the people. So Chairman Boldre always says that if he's in this space and he's only getting wealthy for himself, then what he's doing does not matter. But if he's educating the community, if he's educating the world about crypto, if he's bringing industry leaders into spaces like this, then he is making a difference. And so Boldre, chairman of the Cryptocurrency Task Force of Dade County, and also founder of the BitPoint, an educational platform that breaks the bits down, is changing the world. And so again, a robust round of applause for Elijah John Boldre.
Crypto peace and blockchain blessings. I bring greetings for you from Miami-Dade County. I am Elijah John Boudre. I'm chairman of the Miami-Dade County Cryptocurrency Task Force. The dawn of the blockchain era is cresting over the horizon of this nation. It is us in this room, the pioneers, like Jeff, like Barbershop Speaks, like the Crypto Convos, like DeFi Philly, like our guests that we have here this evening, who are leading it into its inevitable zenith. We understand that now is the time, and that this is the place. Right? And it's as we unify and work towards regulatory clarity, we want to make sure that we answer the question of what is this technology's mission, if not to improve the human condition? What does it actually do for the people? There's a lot of convolution or different stories about wealth or different obfuscations or propaganda in either direction. But we must understand that this is not new. Technology always changes, but humans never do. Right. History doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme to the same beat. Amen? Amen. Old systems become obsolete, and new ones step up to compete. But when will we learn this lesson? When will we be allowed to harness this for our blessing? Well, that's why Crypto Convos is created. And that's what this special segment, this policy panel preview, is all about. So, Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I know you're probably wondering why I've got this hat and these belt buckle and shoes. I'm from Long Beach, California, representing Miami.
LBC?
Yeah, that's right, that's right. That's it, what's up? Representing the MIA 305. But crypto is my life. I'm 1,000% dedicated to it. Not just for the wealth or that it gives me or my partners, but because we never had a chance like this. We never had a chance where we realize what is happening, and we can grab hold of it, we can participate in it. Not just in the passive to buy and hold, but actually to use the technology in ways that can create asymmetrical solutions to problems that we never even thought about. So this hat, this buckle, these shoes come from Cheyenne, Wyoming. This is the pioneers of crypto policy. Miami will make world history as the first municipality in America to actually accept crypto and to actually fully incorporate blockchain applications throughout its municipal structure. I'll have the honor, the humble honor of leading that effort. And such went out as a part of our charter, that actually created the resolution to create this actual task force and this mission to lead Miami first into the blockchain era. It was to go out to the governments. And we looked out, and Wyoming reached back. So we went out there, and we made a connection. And we started something called the U.S. Crypto Policy Alliance, which basically is more so of a campaign initiative that said, hey, you know what? These key players here in Wyoming that have been able to pass 25 different pieces of blockchain legislation for the state of Wyoming, first ever, they're the pioneers. But we need to learn from them. We need to connect. Not only that, some of the basic tenets of the baseline structure of their bills that establish or actually codified or gave credence to the existence of blockchain in the law, which is the first step. We need to make sure that we get out to the other blockchain associations, state level. And so we had a conference or convening of 28 other blockchain associations from states around the country with a commitment to try to get a mentorship or to get support from one another, but to put their bills into their state houses as well. And we've been successful at this goal of mainly implementing on the mind about blockchain legislation and crypto policy, but there's still work to go. And so it's an honor that we've been able to do the policy panels, bring together local government leaders who are really pioneers in their own right, in the technology and understanding and seeing the future, with actual crypto and blockchain industry experts, so that we can get to the bottom and we can convene to an actual a dialogue about this. And as the proliferation happens, we can work together, as the blockchain is. All right. And so with that, I would just like to say it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce our special guests for this evening, our esteemed guests who are here from the city of New York. Can you join me in bringing in our first guest from the city? He is the New York City's Chief of Technology Officer and the Office of Technology and Innovation, Mr. Matthew Frazier.
Thank you. All right. right, all right.
You want,
All right.
you want to, right there.
Over here?
Yeah, right here.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How's everybody doing?
Good, good, good.
All right, all right. You alive?
Yeah. For me?
I'm gonna try this one more time. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, good evening.
All right, all right. So before we talk about anything, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself from a baseline, right? Every morning I wake up. God willing, I wake up. The people I care about the most also wake up, right? Then I'm having a great day. Everything else is just a bonus. Right. So I'm very happy to be here with you today. The one thing that no one can give you back is time, so thank you for taking some time to hang out with us. All right.
Excellent. Give a round of applause. And next up is another blockchain brother, but also I would actually say like an inspiration to myself, a mentor, and a long-term public servant, and someone who sees the value of technology and how it can actually relate to the benefit of the public. He's Executive Director of Innovation and Emerging Markets for New York City, Jonathan Solomon. Yes,
hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. Great to be here. Thank you. My remarks will be very brief. I apologize. I have a nasty cold, so rather than hack all evening, I'll just spare all of you that unpleasant experience. There's a lot of information out there, and the best thing you can do is get it from trusted sources, such as Commissioner Frazier and others. So I'm really happy to share with you what I know and to answer any questions anybody has at any time.
All right, excellent.
Here?
Yes.
Tell me.
Up here?
Right here?
Yeah, it's not good. Okay, and so we also we have another special guest. She's a doctoral student for Chicago Institute of Psychology, as well as an employee for the City of New York, and also one of the foremost scholars, and also in actual production as well as in psychology. Can you give it up for Cinda Jones, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Cinda Jones, as Chairman Beaudre has indicated, and I am a behavioral scientist. And as we step into this journey of blockchain, it's really our responsibility to look at the language we use. This is an opportunity for us to reshape who we are. You know, I interviewed a gentleman at the New York NFT conference, and I said to him, you know, what is it that makes the universe and virtual reality so special? So that we can all have a seat at the table.
We want to open it up by just really asking all of you here as public servants, but starting off with our CTO here, if you just want to describe kind of how you began your journey in technology, and how it's led you into now. I mean, the big, New York's #1 city. Am I right? Is this #1 city? Right? Right? Yeah. Okay.
The best city in the world.
The best city in the world, right? Yes, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Right? New York. Let's go, New York.
Yeah. Also with the best mirror in the world. Throw that out there.
All right. Please, I'm definitely very interested you say that. We wouldn't expect the CTO to have as much fashion sense as yourself. All right. Can you explain about your background?
Yeah, so I think my journey in technology started when I was a kid. So when you say there were people that were born without computers, the year I was born was the year the Sega Master System came out, right? So when I was born, a couple of years after, I had access to like my first game console, right? So that's was my first immersion into technology, but my first actual play in tech outside of like playing video games. What they say, necessity is like the mother of invention, right? My dad bought a computer home, right? It's a funny story. He bought a computer home. He put it in an office and stuff like that. And when my parents went to work, my grandparents would watch us for the day. And by watch us, meaning like, give you food, give you some education, make sure you don't do stuff. Right. But other than that, you roam around the house. So I found myself in my dad's office with a screwdriver taking that computer apart. He came home from work, walked into his office, and he saw me sitting in the office with the computer in pieces. So he said, I'm coming back from work tomorrow. By the time I get home tomorrow, that thing better be back together, or you will not be together, right? So fair enough. And my parents come from the Caribbean, so when they say that, they mean it, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. So he came home from work the next day, the computer was back together. He was a little shocked, it worked. And then he put a lock on the door and said, don't go back in there again, right? So that's pretty much my first foray into tech. And ever since then, I've been, anywhere you saw a computer or anything digital, I wasn't too far behind. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you. So I'm not a technologist. I'm more a person who is very interested in drilling down into the process of things. Why do things happen? And when I was a young man, I was fascinated by the idea of money, by this piece of paper, that people really have two practical uses for money. It's emotional and it's practical, right? If I give you $1 or I give you 4 quarters, the 4 quarters doesn't really feel like $1, but it's the same thing. In the same way, if I say to you, hey, let's go out for a beer after this and meet up at 10 o'clock at night, and I don't show up, you figure, well, it's not a big deal. Maybe I text you afterwards, say, hey, I'm really sorry, I couldn't make it. But if I say to you, hey, could you do this job for me and I'll pay you $50, and I don't pay you, that's a big deal. That's a serious violation of our agreement. But we had an agreement to meet for a beer, so why is it seen so differently? So money is such a fascinating concept to me, and it's the basis of almost every conflict that we see, personal or public. And so as digital assets started to become a reality in 2010, 11, 12, depending where you were, I got very curious as to this idea of money not being a piece of paper that you could exchange with people. And my grandfather survived the Holocaust by essentially being put on a train from Vienna at the time, and he was sent to Turkey. And because he was a German Jew, he was interred. And Turkey is all non-Turkish were. And after the war, he moved to Belgium. And in those days after the war, currency could not be exchanged legally. Everyone protected their currency very carefully to avoid the hyperinflation that happened in Germany in the 40s and 50s. So my grandfather was a black market currency trader. He was a guy at the cafe who you would go to if you wanted to go to a different country and exchange money. And he was very, very, very fascinated by this sort of idea that in this side of the street, this money has value. And if you cross over, this money has value. And now we're at a place where people are actively looking to get away from this idea that a central authority controls that very concept. So I'm fascinated by all the Web3 products and the technology that supports cryptocurrency. And so, I mean, I like to think I do other things, but that's the reason why I'm here and so fascinated to join this conversation with such esteemed colleagues as you guys.
So I am not a technologist, and in fact, numbers put me to sleep.
Okay.
But two very interesting things happened in 2019 and 2020. In 2019, I decided to go into my doctoral program after finishing up my MBA, and in wondering what my purpose is. A friend of mine reached out in January of 2020, and she said, if you do nothing else, I just want you to buy $100 of Bitcoin. If you just do that, that is going to place you in a different part of society. And I started to investigate. Well, this is somebody that does not call me with yesterday's network marketing scheme. Okay, this is somebody that is, very serious about money, has invested a great deal of her personal wealth in crypto. So I respect, her pioneering spirit. And out of that respect, well, I wanted to dig underneath crypto and find out, well, what is this all about? And that's when I discovered blockchain. And to me, blockchain was emancipation because it is immutable, it is transparent, it is secure. And when I say immutable, if you mess up a transaction, you have to write another blockchain, if I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah.
You can't reverse that transaction. You can't erase it. Some human cannot come along and change it without some form of consensus. We have to think, what does that do to decision making if you can't just do that little deal on the side? What does that do to bribery? What does that do to piracy? What does that do to money laundering? That changes things. That is how I got into this, because I'm very concerned about our global discourse. I'm very concerned that it's okay that if somebody simply asks a question in this day and age, that you can be assaulted in public, online, for asking a question. That is not forward thinking to me. That is backwards kind of thinking. Why is it that when we're more emancipated, we're not as open-minded? So I want to help us open our minds, open our eyes. That's my interest, and that's how I got into it.
Okay, no, that is definitely profound and give us something to think about. I want to go now, kind of relating to something that I always say, as far as there's nothing new. That the blockchain era is completely the same, but exactly different. As in, humans transmit messages. We communicate with one another. We send those, and the technology method that we actually transmute that is something that is always evolving. From your view, can you describe or parallel you remember a time when there was no internet. You remember the first time you heard somebody say the World Wide Web. You also remember a time there was no blockchain, and so forth. So can you parallel the dawn of the internet age with the dawn of the blockchain age, as you see it, and related to your post?
That's a good one, man. So since I started off the story with me finding myself in trouble, why not continue down that path, right? So, like, not having internet in the days of being able, not being able to communicate with people that way, it's like, that for me was like very early in childhood, and by the time, like, you're 6, 7 years old, AOL comes around, right? Now, at the time, right, we didn't have an AOL subscription, but all I knew is I needed that CD and I needed a credit card to get it started. So I figured, I found 2 of those things and I got my first access to the internet. But I'm not gonna get into the rest of the story, but that's how it started. But when we look at how society has changed, right, and where we're going from a financial perspective, I mean, it's quite remarkable. We went from, like, if you look at something like video games, playing at home, maybe you had a sibling, maybe you had a cousin that came over and you played together. Now you're capable of playing with someone across the globe, and you build friendships and bonds that transcend borders, right? All because digital access enabled that communication. So when we look at what's happened across human history, the number one thing that's increased the human lifespan isn't antibiotics. It isn't some modern medicine. It was running water, right? Broadband is the equivalent of the digital running water. And what we're doing now through evolution is we're using that running water to democratize access to finance. So when we look at the first version of web, or Web 1, right? What was Web 1? Posting, being able to look at information. Web 2 was now being able to blog, not only to receive, but to input. So bidirectional communication. Now that we look at Web 3 is really focused on owning part of the network that you're communicating on and shaping the direction in which things go. So what it took us, if you look at the pathways of human evolution, right? it's only a fraction of a second from where we went from, sticks and fires to having lights, and then from lights to the computer age, and now from the computer age, looking at decentralized finance. I mean, these are fractions of a second in human history. And it's very important that we have conversations like this and we start to look and guide that conversation because, like you said, this is where the next generation of wealth will be amassed. And unless we're sitting at the table and we have a part in the conversation, we're going to lose that opportunity. So I think for us, if you try to parallel it to like human history, I mean, we are of the last, thousands of years, we're a fraction of a second of that. And we now have the capability to define what will come for the next decade, 2 decades, century.
Excellent.
So, in my view, cryptocurrency or digital assets is essentially, it's a solution to a problem that's been vexing people for many, 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 many hundreds of years, which is how do you move money and how do you move money safely? So if you go to a traditional bank and you wire funds, you're using technology that's about 50, 60 years old, SWIFT, give or take. It's an idea that all banks are interlinked and each bank has a special code number, and as you wire those funds, everyone takes a nice little piece of your money as it goes from point A to point B. The other fascinating part about that concept is that when you go to a traditional bank, that bank is run by the Federal Reserve. If you recall many years ago, you're not old enough to remember this, but I am. If you recall many years ago, there was a guy who was in charge of the Federal Reserve. His name is Ben Bernanke. His name is not important, but one day there was a rumor going around the internet that he had a heart attack and he was unwell, and the markets went collapsing. That's not supposed to happen. No one's health is supposed to determine my equity share in the Sony stock that I own. That's unacceptable. But I learned right then and there that there's just a tremendous amount of emotion in markets. Markets are run by people who sit at large trading desks in huge banks and make decisions. And they have access to the absolute most incredible technology and the latest information. So we have moved from sort of, older style technology to blockchain and cryptocurrency, but in many ways, the technology that we're talking about here is a teeny tiny portion of the vast banking system that exists today, which is really the way probably 95% of money still moves around. So as we move from the traditional systems, which are deeply entrenched, right? So when I go and I move my money to someone in France, for whatever reason, the Federal Reserve takes a piece of that. It goes through a Belgian conglomerate called SWIFT. They probably take a few pennies, then it's sent to the French central bank, takes another couple nickels, and then moves its way to whatever bank the person sending money happens to go to. The beauty of Satoshi Nakamoto's idea was that instead of going through that whole Byzantine sort of crazy process, I could just send you those funds from one code to the other. And the other sort of fascinating part about all this is the pseudo-anonymity that the blockchain provides, right? When I wire those funds, it's very clear where that money is going and all the stops along the way that it makes. It's not quite clear who gets a piece of all my money, but it's just the large banks. When you send money on a digital asset, that really takes place between two people. And the blockchain is just the system that ensures that that money is only sent once, so I can't send you the same thing twice. That's one thing that the blockchain sort of solved was a problem. How do you avoid people resending the same coin over and over again, which is something called a nonce, number used only once. And it allows people to move money without that central bureaucracy looking at it. So maybe I'm in a country where the central bureaucracy is seizing all those funds. Maybe I'm in Ukraine right now and I don't have access to my money. Maybe I'm in China where Bitcoin is has a lot of issues with the government right now. Or maybe I'm in a country that has global unrest, Venezuela, and I don't have access to the money or it doesn't have the same value. So there's a lot of problems that will be solved by blockchain technology and to some extent cryptocurrency. But I think we're, as the commissioner said, I think we are at the very, very tip of what is going to be possible. And I always add to all these statements, but please realize that in my own personal opinion, cryptocurrency itself is still so early in its game that I caution people to be very careful with putting your hard-earned dollars into cryptocurrency. But the technology behind cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology, that is where you're going to see some unthinkable communications. And those of us old enough to remember dialing a rotary phone to now being able to FaceTime anyone anywhere in the world, we've come a long way very, very quickly. And I think the blockchain and other Web3 technology that the Commissioner was referring to, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, will open a tremendous amount of doors for people that we really don't even know were doors we wanted to be opened. And I think that's where we're at. We're at the very, very early stages, in my opinion.
I appreciate that you both mentioned behavior and emotion and decisions. And the reason that is important is economics suggests that we make decisions rationally, okay? Behavioral economics, which is my specialty or my concentration, it says, wait a minute, we're messy, we're emotional. You know, a decision is not just a decision. For some people, it's an experience. So you have to start to look at that when you're designing systems and understand that, you know, we all have biases. It does not matter, okay? There's a fallacy out there that only certain types of people are biased. We're all biased. And that bias creeps in to our decisions, how we program, what we say, what we do. So if you have a consensus system, like a blockchain, where you have to, as a group, come to terms on what it is that algorithm is going to do, well, now you're managing your behavior. You're not at the effect of your behavior. But most organizations and most people don't really understand that aspect of it. Change management is a big part of this whole blockchain revolution. If we don't look at it from a change management perspective, we miss a core component of change management, which is it's prospect theory and behavioral economics, which basically is where the term everything is relative comes from, okay? But it also goes on to talk about a term called loss aversion, which means we would rather keep the jacked up thing that we have because we know it, better the devil you know, okay, than to take on that new thing that could catapult you into a more satisfying experience. That's a big thing to deal with in this space. How many of you have said something about crypto and people just go blank?
Yeah.
Okay? They zone out. I say, you know, blockchain and crypto are not the same thing, and NFTs are not the same thing, and they're snoring, or they're checked out, or they're on their phone. Part of what behavioral economics does is it acknowledges the human element in business, and it says, let's acknowledge that, let's factor that in, let's be sensitive. I've been a part of multiple mergers and acquisitions where nobody thought about the humans and how it affected us. We were just either in a job, a new job that we didn't ask for, we were out of a job that we depended on. So there's, again, for me, it's always going to come back to this is our opportunity to take that knowledge and to say, because we know people are afraid of change, here's some things that we can do, like advanced change theory, which you know, really speaks to, you know, looking at all the elements of change and making sure that they are a fit for your organization and that your people are incorporated and that your employees are change agents. Businesses are not doing this in this way. They go out, the executives make a decision, and then they say, okay, guys, this is going to be the new change. And then we're all at the effect of that change while they don't necessarily adopt new models for management that go with that change. So there's a lot of deep thinking that needs to go into business management and blockchain because we're adopting this technology, but you got to think about the people. Even in business, you got to think about behavior. And this is competing with traditional workforce structures. I mean, there's a real reason that people are not going back to work. They don't like how they're treated. So what is fintech? An escape, an emancipation from a place where you're not valued or you're not heard. So it's a real opportunity, particularly government agencies. You know, there's things on the table that are opportunities for the government to address. So this is a good time to introduce them, you know, behavioral aspects of that.
Oh, excellent. I'd like to thank our guests, Matt, John, Cinda, for sharing. And I'd like to thank you guys for being here. This is we're truly peering over the precipice of a paradigm, preparing to pioneer a new path, realizing that the physical world can only be accepted as first and that our digital reality can no longer be denied at last. These tectonic transitions are caused by technology's position, the prodigious potential to transform every tier in class. So we've been entrusted this vision, so that with prudent decision, we all could be multiplied by this immutable math. That's why I, Elijah John Beaudre, chairman of the Miami-Dade County Cryptocurrency Task Force, solemnly swear to always espouse, to emulate the benevolent idioms of this beautiful immutable ledger, to be transparent, to be distributed, all power to everyone, overpower to no one, to be immutable forever. So help me God. Thank you. And thank you to Crypto Convos. This has been a Crypto Convos.
So, we have amazing people with us next, and I'm going to introduce the moderator first, and then I'm going to introduce everyone else, and then I'll let Ashley take it from there. And so I'm honored to bring to the stage Ashley Keynes. She is the blockchain project lead for Blavity. All right, the blockchain project lead for Blavity. So please come to the stage, amazing woman. Here. And she was actually a speaker at Black Tech Week in Cincinnati 2 weeks ago. She did a phenomenal job talking about crypto. So we're honored to have her here. All right. So do you want me to introduce the rest, or are you going to? Okay. Up next, we have Vernon. Can you give Vernon a round of applause? He is the founder and CEO at Equity Coin, and I'll let him, he's going to share more about what Equity Coin does. I'm honored to bring to the stage Michael A. And before y'all clap, Michael, I told you I'm putting you on the spot every single time. We did a Crypto Convos in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, and it would not have been possible without Michael's leadership. So he is the founder and managing partner at MA8 and co-founder of DeFi Philly, which was an amazing decentralized finance conference in Philadelphia. And so he is a leader, he is a mover, he is a shaker. I appreciate him, he is my brother. So please give Michael a round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And up next we have Victoria Coker, or Cocker, I'm not sure. We have Victoria. She is the founder of Black Web Fest. I met her in Cincinnati when I was there for Black Tech Week. And so she's doing amazing work. She was on the panel with Ashley. They did great. And so please give Victoria a robust round of applause. And last but certainly not least, it is my pleasure to bring Nicole Tay to the stage. She is deeply embroiled in crypto. I met her. I don't know what to say. Yeah, that's true. She's embroiled. She's a true blockchainer, and so thank you so much for coming. So please give Nicole a round of applause.
All right, welcome. Good evening. Happy Sunday. So I want to start by saying this is actually my second Crypto Convos, second barbershop speaks. I did the first one, I believe it was the first one in Miami. It was really, really, really good. Also an all-white barbershop. Works well, I guess, on the cameras. But it was a very, very good conversation, and it made me very excited for Jeff's mission. So I'm excited, honored to be here in my hometown for its first New York stop. And I'd also want to reintroduce the panelists. Vernon I've gotten to know very well, so I will save myself from introducing you for you.
So guys, I'm so happy to be here. Big shout out to Jeff, the homie. My name is Vernon J. I'm the CEO of Equity Coin, the first digital token backed by affordable housing. Real estate runs in my veins through and through. Ever since I've been in the space for 17 years at this point, multifamily, mostly commercial real estate. I've done a little bit under 200 million in transactions from coast to coast. I got into blockchain really heavy in 2016. We traveled Hong Kong, Dubai, all over this country, learning about how real estate and blockchain intersect, and how blockchain creates more efficiencies in the space, not only in the supply chain, but also in the funding and being your own bank, which I think this is a perfect venue for this. And in 2016, we also started to build our own portfolio of properties in East New York. in Brooklyn. And it was at that time that our thesis was very simple. We were gonna buy properties and house families who really needed it and connect with government agencies so that we get cash flow every 1st and the 15th. I can't wait till tomorrow. It's the 1st. So, and then fast forward to 2020, we started housing homeless families and families coming from shelters. And the last family that we had, it was a young mother, 30 years old, young son, 10 years old. She was in a shelter for 3 months before she moved in. And when we handed her the keys, she broke down in the craziest tears of gratefulness. And it was at that moment that I knew that that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. It was the most fulfilling moment that I've ever had, and I wanted to do that 1,000 times over. So I knew that with my knowledge of blockchain technology, I can have the community come together so that we can acquire assets together, we can get people off the streets, we can create generational wealth for each other. And I'm excited to be here. I have a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to learn about everybody on the panel.
Michael A. Williams, founder, managing partner of Michael A. & Company, MA8. My crypto journey starts in 2011. I know I'm old. Lifelong nerd, computer programmer, building websites and things. And in 2011, I'm listening to a really nerdy podcast on security, and he explains Bitcoin and I just listened to it, I think 40 times. It had to be, maybe more than that. And I have to find where it is. And apparently there was, at the time in 2011, there were 3 websites that were actually dripping Bitcoin. That if you can connect the wallet to it, you can actually just receive Bitcoin. And I found every computer I had and just put as many drips as I can possibly get on those things. And that's how my Bitcoin journey started back in 2011. From there, I went right back to building websites. I had absolutely no idea what to do with these coins on this laptop at all. I actually lost 2. I still to this day don't know how to get into them, and I don't know exactly where I am because I just didn't have any idea. But that's where my lifelong, I need to know everything about this technology. And that's where it started in 2011. And from there, I just really dug into trading Bitcoin, trading altcoins and things like that, all the way up to 2018, where I discovered DeFi. And DeFi is the moment for me and the time that I started my company that really changed my life. Because it really allowed me to say, I can control all the revenue that comes into my business. I do not have to give it to a bank. I can give it to someone else, and I can control it all the way through from start to finish, and no one else touches it but myself. And from there is where it really took off for me in building a company based entirely on crypto. So I started my company in 2018. And from there, we aggressively traded, researched, and developed. We're moving more into investments now, but for the last 5 years now, we have just been trading and researching a ton. Because everybody here knows the first line of crypto is you have to do a lot of research, no matter what digital asset is. Even if it's Bitcoin, there's still a lot of research that has to go in before you buy a coin, before you do anything with a coin. And that's where a lot of my research, luckily or unluckily, the pandemic happened, which gave me a lot of time to think about what my next journey would be and start building out all the things that I've learned at that point, over 10 years in crypto. And that's where I came together with a bunch of my buddies and we developed DeFi Philly. DeFi Philly is really built on community only. The idea that crypto is really about we all know each other and we all trust each other. So if that's the case, well, why can't we just trade services? And the idea is that we're trying to build communities that really understand that if we are a tight-knit community, it does not matter what the actual piece of paper that we give each other. We all trust each other because we know we can redeem it for someone else who's also part of our community. And that's kind of the next layer of my development is our DeFi Philly initiative. We had a conference last week, Coinbase, Splinterlands, Uniswap, a bunch of sponsors all sponsored our conference, and we did a bunch of different kind of future finance talks, super fluid as well. I can ramble all day about crypto, I apologize. So that's basically me.
I feel like I'm represented from Brooklyn, so we're Brooklyn at, we're Brooklyn at, we're Brooklyn at. No, nobody Brooklyn. Okay. Anyways, hi everybody. My name is Victoria Coker. I'm the founder of Black Web Fest. Black Web Fest is an organization that helps Black creators build sustainable careers by providing accessible programs and services. So my crypto journey started like in 2018. Learned about CryptoKitties, and I was like, I need to figure out how I can get into here because people are making millions of dollars on little cats. And so I bought like some ETH, some Bitcoin, some Ripple. Oh, Ripple. Okay, anyways, back to my story. What I'm doing right now with Black Web Fest is that we're doing a lot of stuff in Web3 because I just think there's so many opportunities for equity in this space. So we have a Web3 survey where we're trying to get 100 Black Web3 founders to fill out the survey. So if you know of anybody, hit me up, holla at me. I'm gonna be around. I want to set some benchmarks, one for the founders to kind of go on, but also for the investors, right? If we don't know how much money is coming into this space or the needs of the founders, then we really can't do anything. And then another thing that I'm trying to set up for May of 2023 is an incubator for Black Web3 founders. So the survey is like the starting point, right? We get all the data, and then we prove that we need these things, and we have an incubator. So that's just a few of the things that Black Web Fest is doing. But we'll definitely talk about more during the panel.
Hey folks, my name's Nicole Tay. I got my start in 2017. I was working a job doing like pharmaceutical copywriting. So if you like watching those ads where it's like sad woman with a disease and it's like gray and you know she's like crying and then she takes this drug and then it's like happy and it's like in color. And then it's like, here are all the ways that the drug can kill you. That's like the land that I used to live in. And it was really because I just finished my a public health degree, and so I'd actually really focused on social epidemiology, which is kind of like the study of how our social milieu, like systemic racism, sexism, homophobia, et cetera, it like affects how long you live. And so a lot of people are like, well, how does that connect with like blockchain technology? And I actually love talking to folks about it because I think there's a lot to apply there in terms of thinking about decentralized technology, not just as a way to like make a quick buck or whatever, or be on like the bleeding edge of technology, but to really think about it as the ultimate tool and experiment to decentralize power. And so that journey had really kind of like led me to lead marketing at a decentralized data storage company, and from there I went to lead marketing for the Near Foundation Grants Program, which by the way, if you hit up Joanna over here, we have some free Near wallets with some tokens in them for you to take away. And I guess the one quick thing else that I would add is that you know, I hear a lot that especially like I think on the left and in marginalized communities is like the top criticism I hear about crypto is just like, it seems to me like it is this tool for the uber rich and the elite and people already on the bleeding edge to just reinvent capitalism and make it faster for them and like even more brutal, widening an ever increasing divide. And I think that that's actually the strongest call to action that I can think of because they're 100% right. This technology is a double-edged sword. It can absolutely be used to widen every single divide that we see right now. Like you imagine the advent of surveillance capitalism, all of these big tech companies taking our data, basically feeding us ads as psyops to change our behavior. That's really what they're selling. And we have a really true opportunity right now to take back ownership over our data. And that can only happen with decentralized technology. So as I said before, this is a really grand experiment, and it's really asking the question of like, can we as a society advance beyond these centralized systems, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Amazons, et cetera, the banks that have thus been ruling society, and can individual people and communities genuinely survive and thrive through self-determination and self-sustainability? Your guess is as good as mine.
So I want to circle back to myself for a second because I realized that I didn't properly introduce introduce myself or why I'm here other than my excitement. So I grow and lead Web3 native communities. And that means a couple of things, but I'm specifically interested and work on communities that are powered by economies, right? So like in the crypto space, we've come to call these DAOs, which stand for Decentralized Autonomous Organizations, which the simplest definition is like a chat room with a budget, essentially. Like you pay, it's essentially what it is. Like if everyone in this room put up $100 and said, this is the Sunday night club, right? And with everyone's $100, we had $10,000, and we now as a group go figure out what we're doing with that $10,000. That is the work that I do sort of from both ends. So from the creation of the coins and the tokenomics that go into what incentivizes the actions of these communities, and then also like bringing people into the communities themselves and making sure that they have the information to be considered Web3 or crypto native. So I should have started there. And I also want to circle back to Nicole's point about crypto or Web3 blockchain not just being a technology, but a philosophy as well. And I try to drive this point home on every single panel that I'm on, whenever I talk to people as much as possible, that I consider myself to be one of the gatekeepers of the philosophy of the blockchain, where we are not just reinventing capitalism. It is not just a race to become singularly rich. That's why I love what Equity Coin is doing. But there is, with this technology, like, yes, you can help yourself individually, but it's more powerful and more helpful when we learn as a community and we pool that information, that knowledge, and literally the money for us all to get ahead. So with that said, I also have my dad here, which I'm very excited for. I have my dad here. And he's gonna help with this first question because I've been trying to get him into crypto for the longest, and hopefully tonight helps. But my first question is, why should anyone care about this space?
Well, I'm just gonna piggyback on what you said, which was perfect about community and the sharing economy. And one of our Equity Coin, one of our most valuable trademarks is the sharing equity economy. And I think this kind of like gives a sense of what we're doing and why we're doing it. I think the sharing equity economy 1.0 was with the advent of Airbnb, Uber, Turo. I mean, if 15 years ago, if I told you that you were gonna be riding in a stranger's car, to work or wherever, you would be like, yo, that's nuts, that's crazy, get out of here. Or if I told, now Uber, they've disrupted taxi commissions across the globe. I mean, these are mafia-driven organizations we're talking about. You know what I mean? This is not normal. And then you look at Airbnb. Again, 20 years ago, I said, yo, we're gonna go stay at the stranger's home. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna go stay at the stranger's home, and you would have laughed me out of the room. Today, Airbnb is disrupting hotel lobbies all across the world. So I think the next iteration of the sharing equity economy, and I call it the sharing equity economy 2.0, is where the disruption of banks, right? So yeah, right. Yes. This is the next iteration, and I speak to some of my older people in my family, my grandmother, my aunts, and they can't even fathom the thought of buying property without a bank. Think about it. It's not even. They said, what? How do you do that? Like, what? You got to talk to me about it. So I think the reason why we're doing this, and the reason I think everybody's doing this, is to create sharing equity economies across the globe. And that's what we're doing with Equity Coin. And the reason why I created Equity Coin was to use our assets as a test case for the tokenization of real estate, tokenization of equity in real estate. And we're a security token, just to let you guys know. So we're not a cryptocurrency. We abide by the SEC rules and regulations. We're registered, all that good stuff. Because I see the regulation coming. I want to get ahead of it. I don't want to build this thing up and then get knocked out. So we're doing this kind of like a way. It's a little harder, but I think it'll end up being the best thing. But the next thing that we're doing is a system called Equity Share. And Equity Share takes our infrastructure, our legal components, our political connections, policy, our smart contract. I got really lucky. My best friend of 9 years as a cryptographer, he helped Venmo and PayPal build out their system. So what we're doing is we're taking that infrastructure and giving other community developers all over the country the ability to tokenize their assets, tokenize their company. And we talked about earlier how the internet and this is kind of similar. Before 1991, it was illegal for people and businesses to own a website. People don't know that, right? But now, same thing today with blockchain. They're still trying to figure out the regulations. But once it gets going, it's a wrap, right? So in 1995, if you had a website as a business, you were hot. If you had a website, right, you were hot. But think about what it took to build a website in 1995. You had to get a PHP developer. You needed a MySQL guy. You needed an HTML guy. At the end of the day, it costs you so much money to build a website. Today, you can build a website in 5 minutes. Squarespace, GoDaddy. So I think the same thing is going to happen with tokenization of assets, tokenization of companies, where with equity share, and that's what we're trying to do, is you're going to be able to create comprehensive smart contracts that are going to be able to do things that, first of all, abide by the laws. Secondly, they create more transparency and creates more liquidity. You're not even going to want to invest in a company that's not tokenized in 10 years. Just like you won't invest in a company that doesn't have a website. That's crazy. Like, if you don't have a website, I'm not investing in you. So I could, like you said, I could go all day, but I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about it.
Michael, why should we care?
Because it unlocks entrepreneurs that might not have been entrepreneurs. When you think about outside of the United States and places that cryptocurrency, it really would take a person that would have to live under the rules of wherever government they're in and the money that they're doing to say, wait, I fundamentally can go, I'm an entrepreneur, I have all these ideas, instead of having to deal with whatever system is going along, I can go, oh, I can have this new currency that all of us trust and work with, and I know how to program and develop and all these things, and say now I can build on this outside of whatever government is trying to oppress them. And for me, the idea of why it's important is because there's a bunch of entrepreneurs, thousands, millions, over the next 10, 20, 50 years who might have never been entrepreneurs because they live in places where the rules are very strict. We do not have blockchain technology. We don't have all these things necessary to say, hey, wait a minute, I make money. You know what I can do? I made money over here. I can put it in this contract and I can stream in to a number of digital assets with my own money outside of any bank. And that's why I really appreciate the idea of building your own bank. Because what you're saying is that I can now make my money, control my money, invest my money, and then make more and start again. And for entrepreneurs and people that might not be entrepreneurs, they're going to come up with some new ideas for how to be entrepreneurs. I know you as an entrepreneur are always thinking of new ideas and going, oh, I can just connect these new things. And when it comes to blockchain technology and crypto, for me, why it's important is because it's not for us that are here, but it's for all the community and all the different people within the community who can now say, oh, I can be an entrepreneur because there are all these different options and I can expand on that as opposed to just dealing with whatever currency it is. Because I do a lot of time in Africa, and it's one of my biggest things is just how can we empower people who make a little bit of money, are trapped under a very specific government regulations. And those people are the ones that I really care about, and that's why it's so important to me.
Am I going next? To me, I just think about the everyday person, and I've spoken to family. I don't even try to convince people actually, but I just talk to them about something that I'm passionate about. I'm just passionate about artists, how to kind of help creators, and I just see it as a way of ownership. I think oftentimes as people of color, we don't own a lot of things. But with the blockchain, with NFTs, with cryptocurrency, we actually get to own it, and it's very transparent. People can see it. We can see it. Others can see it. No one can burn it. Back when you look at all the things that happened with the Black community, Black Wall Street, all those different things, we get to own these things, and no one can kind of take it from us because, as they were talking about, it's not mutable, so you can't you can't do anything to it. No one can change it. You get to keep it. You get to own it. You can take it off on a wallet and, hold on to it. So there's just so many opportunities for an everyday person to own something that could be worth millions, to have possibly own a piece of someone's IP, right? Imagine if you owned a piece of Disney World, or you own Marvel or Spider-Man or one of those things, and you could actually make money off of it. We're building these things. People on this panel, they're building these things. And now an everyday person can own a piece of that and no one can kind of take it away. So that's why I think you should care, or that's why I care at least.
I like reframing it in that way as well, because I think that the fact of the matter is that because, like the internet, blockchain technology is so ubiquitous that for every single person in this room, there's going to be a different use case for like what gets it to click in your head. So I think, honestly speaking, from like the perspective of like why do I care about it, I can just say like for me it boils down to data ownership and community empowerment. So on the data ownership side, like you think, again, back to like the surveillance, I'm gonna harp on this like until I die. Like even in like early days of medieval ages, right? They were doing surveillance. They had the folks in the churches, they were like, we need to know who the heretics are so that we can go like pillage them and put them in jail, right? Or you're building up an army and you're like, I need to know how many able-bodied men can go like fight and destroy this other land over here, right? So we've been counting people since the dawn of humanity. And I would say like no other community across time has been more deeply affected by surveillance than the Black community. And that span, you can go all the way back, but I mean, even just looking at like Martin Luther King Jr., every civil rights movement, the Black Panthers, like I could go on and on and on, even down to today, Google.
COINTELPRO.
Yeah. COINTELPRO and
Yeah.
Google, yep, exactly. Yeah. So even like today, we already are seeing examples of Google working with local police departments to give them data on what's happening on the ground, and specifically policing like poor Black and brown communities for crimes that are happening, so that you can retroactively like pin someone for a crime that happened, right? So, and that's only happening in poor Black and brown communities. And so I think that data ownership perspective is something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but is super important, because data is more important than oil. It is a more valuable resource than oil, like will ever be. The second part about communities just goes back to DAOs. So you think about everything, every product, every program that cannot exist in this world today because it's not inherently profitable under capitalism.
Right.
That's a lot of shit, honestly. And what ends up happening is like you only end up developing the products and the programs that make someone a buck at the end of the day. So what if communities could actually self-determine and figure out, how do I want to spend this amount of money to purely serve my community, and in doing what's best for the people that are part of this DAO, this part of this community that we've built, who are equal shareholders in what happens to us. And I think having those incentives be realigned is, I think, through public goods and through DAOs, is why I'm so bullish about this technology.
So I do a lot of these, yes. I do a lot of these panels, and what I noticed, the thread that sort of is similar throughout all of these panelists is a passion about the underlying technology. And I feel like most people, when they hear about crypto, they're hearing about the cryptocurrency like trading, or they're hearing about like NFTs as products, these things that sort of lay on top of the technology. And the technology is the real opportunity. So that's like a huge takeaway that I want everyone in the room to understand, but I also would like each of the panelists to sort of speak to fears that people have when they look at NFTs, they look at cryptocurrency, and they assume scam, or rightfully so or not. And it keeps them from really being curious about the real gold.
So, blockchain is a revolutionary technology disguised as a casino. Seriously. And you look at the beginning of the internet. Look at the beginning of the internet. They said, internet is only for pornographers and thieves. You shouldn't be on it. Don't go on it. And they said the internet is going to die. It's a fad. We all know how that ended up. today, same thing. They're saying, oh, blockchain technology. When I tell somebody blockchain, oh, that Bitcoin thing. That Bitcoin thing, right. And I think that there's an educational component that's required right now in order for us to move forward. And that's why conversations like this are so vital. So.
I really think it falls down to, it really goes back to the educational piece. That the idea that most people fundamentally just know the basics. They hear Bitcoin, now they hear Ethereum, and they hear all these other things. But I think that where people get most nervous is it's money. It's really what they have to live off of. So the idea that it'll go away so quickly is something that really a lot of people are really hesitant about. But for me, where I try to really tell people to kind of get involved is don't worry about investing in a coin. Don't worry about looking for what's going to go up and moon to the sky. Like, find something that you can participate in. Like, find something that works. I mean, if you're not a developer, like, join a community. Talk to some people there. Like, some of the best coders I know in their Discord, they're always looking for marketers. They're always looking for people on social media. And all these things will also, and then two of my friends who I gave this advice to, now are coders because they go, I talk to them all day on Discord, all day long. And now I understand what a Solidity smart contract is. And I understand like, oh, I know the difference between an ERC 777 and 1820 and a 720. Like they know the differences all of a sudden. So like, for me, my biggest thing that I'm talking to all community people, especially people who don't really know and are scared, is just participate. Somewhere along the line, there are so many opportunities besides knowing how to write a smart contract or deploy coin. There are so many opportunities and you'll learn. I think for me is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It's the money part, right? Because what a lot of us came to know or when we first started was investing ourselves, right? And people are scared to invest, especially in Black and brown communities, regardless, even if it wasn't cryptocurrency. When it's regular, I tell my family about investing in a whole bunch of stuff. I remember when the stock market went down during the last recession, and I think Citibank was $1. I was like, Citibank is not gonna go away. It's gonna go somewhere. Then it went back up to like $20. I was like, look, people, look. And I couldn't convince my family to invest in Citibank. So why will they invest in Ethereum or Bitcoin? It doesn't matter. Sorry, there's a fly. It wouldn't really matter whatever I'm telling them because that's not their mindset. There are people who are going to be progressive and want to invest in cryptocurrency or invest in certain things regardless of whatever it is. So I think funding or lack thereof of the education, what is it called? Literacy? I'm trying to think of the word. Financial literacy. Financial literacy is the main problem there. And definitely getting involved, right? If you get involved in some way and learn, don't get involved. You don't have to get involved and do anything. You don't have to get a job there. You don't have to join a DAO. You don't have to do anything. Just listen and observe that what's happening in this space, and you'll learn so much because this is the future of what's happening in this, in the digital space. So that would be my response.
I think what's kind of interesting, and I'll say this with the caveat, I'm not a big DeFi person. I love just decentralization as a philosophy, as a technology. I'm not a big DeFi person. What's really interesting though is that if you are going at it from an investment perspective, and not financial advice by any means, take it from me, not a DeFi person, but the value of the coin and the token will follow utility.
Right.
So if you just take the time to learn and talk and figure out what is this token actually doing beyond just making people rich. If there is an answer to that, then dig in further and then decide to buy the token, right? So I mean, that's at least what I do is I just search for utility, and we're in a bear market right now, recession essentially. And I think that out of this bear market, there are going to be a lot of projects that come out that have genuine utility because they're not purely built on hype. And at the end of the day, you have to be doing something for people, right? And so I'm actually really excited, not the right word, for this bear market. And I'll also say, last thing, is a lot of the time I will hear people say like, oh my God, it's such a scam, like people like losing money. People like all of the very nefarious people that are hitting you up on like WhatsApp or whatever, being like, send me Bitcoin, right? And it's not false. I also get that. But you think about like the internet as it is like today, how many like, remember like the scam chain emails that would go around? You look at, there's a reason why our spam folder exists, right? And the Web 2.0 scams are still alive and well, cranking it out. So, I mean, I think scams are par for the course, and that's, again, why it comes back to education.
Right. I just wanted to add something because you said some great things, and I think the best projects that are going to come out and survive are the projects that are practical and that have practical use cases, right? So when I talk about Equity Coin, I tell people, look, tonight 500,000 people are going to sleep on the street, right? We have a shortage of 7 million affordable apartments, right now, and the wealth gap has doubled since 1989, and it's continuing to increase. So, I created Equity Coin as a way to build generational wealth in communities of color, at the same time house families who need the housing, and get people off the streets. And it's like, I think that we have to focus on systemic issues, because the blockchain is going to, like I said, the projects that survive are going to be the ones that tackle the systemic issues, same as when the internet came out.
And I want to explain the concept of cryptocurrency utility, right? Because when we equate it to money, it's a little confusing to follow, because money's utility is like money, like I can go buy stuff. But like when you talk about cryptocurrency, it's actually more similar to the stock market in that, like, every stock, we understand that every stock represents a company behind it, whether it's Coca-Cola or it's Citibank, whoever it is. And most of the time when we see those names, we recognize automatically what it is that company does. Cryptocurrencies are the same thing. The difference is that cryptocurrencies, or companies that are backed by cryptocurrencies, are allowed to enter the market as an intention first. They're coming to raise the money from people. You buy the token, they raise the money. So they don't have to like file for an IPO after they've made billions of dollars, or whatever the case may be, the process for getting on the stock market to be traded on a cryptocurrency market, maybe not Coinbase, but like a Kraken or one of the smaller ones, is just to release your project. And typically, almost always, that project comes with what's called a white paper, which explains like what that company plans to do with the money that you put into that token, so that you can make an educated assessment, like our panelists are talking about whether or not, okay, this is not practical, or this is something that I see still being useful 5 years from now. If you would have read the Ethereum white paper 6-7 years ago, you would say, okay, this is a good bet. I see this technology being around in 5 or 6 years, and now like 95% of NFT projects are built on the Ethereum blockchain. That would have been a very good investment on your part. So I just want to stress the difference between investing and gambling, number one, in the cryptocurrency space. Those are two different things. And the difference between them is informing yourself on the utility of that currency. You can do that by reading the white paper, you can do that by reading the internet, but just an understanding, like when people are talking, not anywhere on the internet, but when people are talking about like the utility of a token, it's not just, can I go to Target and spend Dogecoin in Target? If not, it has no utility. That's not exactly, though it is money, that's not exactly what we're talking about. So I just wanted to there.
And can I add on that well? That as far as like investments, like there's those, but now crypto has now allowed us to say we can expand on what investing means. Like fundamentally, that you can now today, instead of saying I'm going to invest a certain amount of my money, my hard-earned money that I made today, I can instantly enter it into a contract that will actually yield interest without all the extra risk. Like when we talk, I think all of us have talked a lot about the idea of finding utility. Like right now in the last, I guess, I'm sure all of you have seen in the last 9 months, so many teams are working on, well, how do we actually give value outside of just the normal things? And one of those things right now is exactly that. Well, how a lot of teams are working on how can we give investment opportunities to people who cannot afford to give $3,000 at the end of the year. Like, so there are so many new ideas and teams that are working on things that say, well, we can actually solve poverty. That if I'm a business owner and I open a stream using a smart contract to my employee, by lunch he can borrow against it and buy lunch. Like, instead of saying I have to wait 2 weeks, and all of us have gone on jobs where you have to wait 3 weeks to get the job, and you get your first paycheck, and then you have no money. Right now on Teams and things like that, there's ideas that are here in place that people are using today that can actually solve poverty. The idea that right now I can go to a job, start a job, I have no money, by lunch I can borrow against it. Like, expanding the idea of what investment means outside of just buying a coin, like that's another alternative to just buying a coin. You can also just invest in a contract that just dollar cost averages into a contract and into a coin. A much safer way to do things, but there are other options now that are available outside of just buying a coin. And I feel like for myself, I'm always trying to push these other options because investing in a cryptocurrency is extremely volatile and extremely dangerous.
Yes.
Like, talking from a person that's like almost cried after waking up and seeing the market move the wrong way. So some of the things and really looking in some of the other options outside of coins that you can also make money in, and they're a little less risky, and they're also growing what we're all trying to do, is create equity and all those things.
So I want to, before we open up for questions, I just want to ask all of the panelists if there's anything else in the space that you would like to dispel or clear up, things that you often come across people misunderstanding that we can hopefully set people straight here.
I feel like we spoke.
Oh man, I'll let you go
I'll
first.
say this: there's a reason why communities of color, are in blight. There's a reason for that. The reason is because of centralization and corporations, and especially banks. I'm talking to you guys. I don't know whoever's in the camera watching if they're a banker. But seriously, we have modern day redlining, where we can't get mortgages in our communities. There's a reason why derelict properties are derelict, because they're not getting funding from the banks, because that's the only place where you can get funding. So I think we need this. We need this so badly because there's a reason why we're here, and the way we're going to get out is by communal investment and coming together and creating sharing equity economies.
NFTs are bigger than JPEGs. Please. I think that this is one of the biggest. I think that it's great that we got everybody to look at a JPEG on a screen to just understand what's going on. It's great, but fundamentally, they're way bigger than that. And I think that a lot of times people don't understand that. They go, well, it's just a JPEG. Just a thing. But you do know what it means, that if you have that one, you can now do a lot more things. We just need people to build on it. And I think that a lot of times people don't realize that. And I think that's the one that I almost yell consistently at people for, to go, they say, that's dumb, it's just a JPEG. But like, what if it was tied to water? That if you had this NFT in your pocket, you could have clean water. Like, something simple, just to jar them a little bit, to understand that, like, it's way bigger. It gives you access to things at an equal level for everyone. All we have to do is give it out, and now you have it. Anywhere in the world, as long as you have this NFT, you can go in this store and get a drink if you're extremely thirsty. It's built way beyond that, so that's my biggest PSA is NFTs are bigger than the JPEGs.
I was trying to think about different things on what we could say. There was this NPR episode talking about how the Black community is deeply, like, the most impacted by the blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and how we invested so much and we've lost so much. But I think that don't let anyone tell you that there's nothing positive to come from this space or there is no opportunity. The article was kind of saying like, well, Black people really believed in this and they invested so much and that's where they're losing the most. Like if you look at the percentages, Black communities are losing more than the other communities. But I think if we educate ourselves, there's so many way more opportunities for us in this space. So just kind of think outside of the box of what's happening right now and think about how you can own things and how you can build communities. And that will kind of lead you the right way. And don't be discouraged by the market right now.
Absolutely.
Think about the technology.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna go back to Michael's point about NFTs and just like tease a little bit of like your imagination around utility. Okay, so V1 of NFTs, everyone's looking at these like profile pictures, right? Like JPEGs. And we're talking about it in terms of like, oh, well, because of the blockchain, you're getting a proof of ownership. It's basically like a deed, like the deed to a house.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I got this deed to this picture, this like, I don't know, cat or whatever. But version 2, which is the utility part that I 100% believe is getting built right now and is getting built, is thinking about an NFT as a verified key that gives you access to other programs, services, communities even. So if we take like the music industry right now, what if, say, like Doja Cat has a new album. She's gonna, and as part of that album drop, she's gonna drop 100 NFTs.
She did it.
Of her album. And let's just imagine, like.
She did that though.
She did?
Doja Cat
love
did
that.
an NFT though.
She would be ahead of the curve. I have full faith. So what if like part of that NFT drop of those albums, if you are one of those 100 people to like own one of those NFTs, then that actually gives you like special backstage access to any of her shows that you like bought a ticket to. So that's kind of what we're talking about is like, you know, you have a verified proof that you own a ticket or a key, and that's going to unlock for you certain experiences or access to celebrities or into secret clubs that exist that do not exist right now. Like there's no way to do that. Even luxury brands, there's a reason why like these like sort of like customer, I forgot what they're, like loyalty programs. Why loyalty programs don't really work right now for like luxury brands, and the blockchain technology is a really key function that can add back a lot of that like verification. So if you get like a Louis Vuitton bag from like every season for like the past 10 seasons, that actually unlocks for you like this special edition bag that you can get. And that's only because you have that very, very special, those special NFTs that you've collected all throughout time, and only as a collective can you then unlock this next tier. So this is all very like consumer facing, of course, and you know, less disruptive, I would say, but it gives you an idea of like the kind of ball game that we're playing.
Absolutely.
That's being done too. Coach did that.
So we're gonna open up and take any questions for any of the panelists. Anyone wants to know? Yeah, sure.
How you doing?
Hi.
It sounds like NFTs are, you guys are explaining it like exclusiveness. So the whole kind of exclusiveness, you're gonna have this key that you can access some shape or form, something that you want. But do you guys see it actually being like a necessity to survive? Do you see it along that?
Possibly.
Depends on the utility.
Right?
Yeah. Like in the water example, yeah.
Right.
It depends who works on it, right? Because like in Miami, they have the whole thing where they did it with city coins. They also are supposed to have city coins in New York, but the mayor is supposed to connect it. I don't know how that really works, but in different cities, they're working on coins and they unlock things in that city. And those are called, like, just look up city coins. And they're doing different things and they're actually funding different programs in different cities. So what if the city says, oh, everyone who has to buy electricity now has to use this New York City coin, you know?
Or to vote.
Or even get a business license. Like I work on a blockchain council in Philadelphia, and we specifically talk about this, like a DID to get a business license in Philadelphia can take 7 to 9 months. So in terms of that, if we gave you an NFT, it could move the process along quicker because we could verify who you are. So it actually would help, it would actually benefit the person who's actually in the system, but also create a place where, you know what, it's better to just administer an NFT at the beginning. To kind of
I think we should just say something about smart contracts, because
Mm-hmm.
smart contracts, that's really what
That's
you
the
say.
basis
Is
of
you're
Sorry,
taking out
I'm
the
a
people,
programmer, I
you're
apologize.
taking out the people from the contract, right? So when if it's taking that long, well, that's so crazy. New
Yeah,
York,
Philadelphia
you could
is
do
very
that
slow.
like the next day, you could do online. But anyways, yeah, you take out the people and all that stuff that's happening, and you can just have a contract, but it's smart. So we can automatically do it for you, right? So
Right,
that
yeah.
kind of powers it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we actually know who you are, because then it's saying, I got to check something and we got to sit in these long lines. We can just match the NFT and keep moving. Your NFT and the smart contract go, okay, move on to the next step. And condense that time to less than a month to start your business as opposed to 7 months.
And to your point about exclusivity, I mean, NFTs
That's a great point.
arguably are both exclusive and inclusive in that they guard this community for people who are holders of the NFT, right? That's the aspect of it that's exclusive, but the connection that everyone within that NFT community has grows and gets deeper. So it also becomes like deeply inclusive as well, and it's more, people start to like link with their identity. So holding a Bored Ape is about the asset, but it's also about being a part of the group of people who hold Bored Apes. So it's sort of double-edged, especially when there's a strong community for the NFT. And in the case of like the business license example, NFT holders who have started their business on that license are probably having meetups now, or they do parties at someone fancy's house or something like that. So there is that aspect of, there's a benefit too. It's not just to lock you out.
But create your own, so nobody can ever lock you out. You gotta create your own, that's why.
Correct.
Always write your own contracts.
Any other questions?
I have two questions. I just want to ask, what do you guys take on, when you guys mentioned earlier, Ripple, what do you guys take on it?
Oh yeah, me.
Oh,
I'm the one who invested $1,000 at the height in 2018.
oh wow. Yeah. Because I have friends and people that's, I've been invested in it since, what, GDAX?
GDAX,
Yeah,
yes,
when they
so
used to have
that
GDAX, yeah.
Coinbase Pro now.
I've been in it since then, but yeah, it doesn't do much. But I keep hearing from like some of my friends, like it's a synthetic stable coin. I don't know too much about that. And CBDCs, what do you guys take on that? That's my opinion. That's the surveillance and everything like that.
Yeah.
Going back to the shit.
She's probably talking on that. I can talk about the Ripple.
I can talk about Ripple. I
Yeah.
think Ripple is actually being bullied. They're being not bullied, but they're being targeted as an example for others, right? Right? So the fact that they're being deemed as a security by the SEC, and Trump's SEC team did it right before they got out of office. It sounded a little, there's a lot going on there. But I think at the end of the day, once this is done and once the litigation is over with, it's gonna be flooding right now with capital coming in, because now they've got a precedent. They've set a precedent on the qualification of a security and what's a security versus a cryptocurrency. Once you have that delineation from a legislative perspective, that means that things are going to start to open up. Similar to internet, like I said, prior to 1991, it was illegal for people to own websites, right? So now they're saying, oh, it's illegal. If you own Ripple on Coinbase, they said, oh, you can't exchange it anymore, right? So eventually, it's going to come through. I'm a fan of Brad. I'm a fan of Brad. I'm a fan of the team, and that was actually the first cryptocurrency that I purchased in 2016.
That wasn't my first. That wasn't my first Ethereum.
The reason why I bought it, because I'm thinking practically. I'm saying, okay, the banks
Back it, right?
the bank. This is like the only cryptocurrency that's like kind of backed by banks.
Yeah, it was
and
like
if you're thinking
Santana,
in
a few different ones
in
at
a
that
capitalist
time.
kind of thought mind or mindset, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be the one that's going to win, right? This is what
Set at 49 cents for like 3 years.
Oh, when I
I
got
bought
it
it at $2.
Well, I got it
almost.
at 2 cents.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why I spent my. That's why. I'm saying it doesn't matter what happens to it. All you can do is hold. If you're based in New York, you cannot sell it on Coinbase. You cannot sell it at all. You have to go to a different state and be a person who lives in that state to do anything, right?
Hit BTC, hit BTC.com. You can purchase and sell.
Yeah, okay, you can purchase now.
In
Okay.
New York, no matter where you are, yeah.
But can you? Because, taxes and stuff, because
Well, I mean, taxes, you're going to have to pay taxes no matter
No,
what.
but you got to put that, okay. You get it. It's really legal, though.
And then what was the other?
CBDC.
Oh, central bank digital currencies. Okay. So you're on the nose. 100% can be used to just sharpen the knives of surveillance capitalism and essentially create 100% trackable money. What a lot of governments have been saying is that it's for anti-money laundering purposes, and they want to penalize all those evil tax evaders that are moving their money around and doing nefarious things with it, whatever. But it is also extremely convenient that by issuing a digital euro or a digital US dollar, that's essentially using decentralized technology, like a blockchain. And this is like one version of it. You could have like decentralized technology, but you're like re-centralizing it.
Right.
Meaning that the only person that it's all decentralized, all the transactions are like perfect and can't be and are immutable and stuff, but then you have this big centralized institution looking at it from the top that can essentially manipulate it if they wanted to without any sort of recourse. So I think that really the bigger question is yes, it's going to provide some degree of convenience. Imagine doing your taxes like that, right? Right. But there's going to be a massive trade-off in terms of do you want the the EU to know exactly what you're doing with every single euro, right? So and I think that's the trade-off that we're going to start seeing a lot with this technology in general is will you give up your data and your security, in some cases, for convenience?
And
One
oftentimes
last
people like to.
question. Yes.
Yeah, so I have two questions. So this is for Michael. You mentioned that in Philadelphia that you need a DID. What is a DID?
So the idea is that what we're trying to do in Philadelphia is say, because the pipeline to get almost anything done takes a long amount of time, is that administering a DID to individuals that are Philadelphians, we can move those processes along and make them shorter. In terms of the business idea, that if you need a business license in Philadelphia, my partner will tell you it will take a very long time in order for it to get it done. So in order to just thinking outside of the box and using some of the technologies available right now to kind of see where can we push the envelope. Some cities are not ready for a DID at all, just because they're slow moving institutions. So the DIDs are something that I think there are only two I think there's one in India and one somewhere in Europe. But besides that, DIDs are a way to kind of say, we can give you ownership in the term of almost an NFT, to move you along and verify that you are who you are and we can move you through.
It's called verified credentialing.
Verified credentialing.
And so what that means is that, like with a driver's license, right? They just need to verify your age. But we give them all of these very, invasive identifiers, name, address, age, when they just need to see your age, to verify that. So a blockchain technology allows, with a smart contract, to verify this one data point, or whatever the amount of data points are, so that now it's curtailed to just verifying in a zero-knowledge way. So I don't have to know anything else about you, but just to verify that. And that will curtail a process and make it more efficient, more secure, and transparent.
And safer. In a world that has a DID for women, I have a 14-year-old daughter. When she gets 18, when she goes to the bar, I need the guy at the front to only look at her age. I don't need her to know anything else about her. In the world that we live now, we hand over a whole ID. And what scares me is that he can see it and see her whole address. In a world that with a DID, correct. All he really needs to know is that she's old enough to come in here. In the case of a DID, that's exactly what a DID is. I just need to know that you're of this age to come through here. Every other piece of information is not needed, and that's the idea of what a DID really is doing.
Because that could be like a huge security issue.
Absolutely.
I didn't even think about that.
Absolutely.
Did you have a follow-up question? Or?
I did. So are smart contracts something that we're going to all have to be able to write ourselves?
Yeah, I think it'd be automated.
In the same way that you can go out to like GoDaddy or Squarespace, your point about making websites, you can do that with smart contracts now. If you have, especially for NFTs, like the JPEG sort of NFT, it's easy enough that you can upload the photo, sort of generally tell it what you want to unlock, like what should be written into the contract, and you mint in seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the more nuanced ones, especially for people who are like starting to put real estate into NFTs or like things like that you would want to get a specialist in.
Right.
I think it's so worthwhile to become a specialist in writing smart contracts, but the baseline stuff is already.
They'll probably make a legal Zoom one day like that where you can just do everything anyway.
But everyone should know how to code.
Factuals.
Yeah.
Good. Do we have time for one last question?
Yes.
Okay, last one,
One
promise.
last question, because again, everyone's doing an amazing job here, but I think we're remiss if we don't address security for, because now, remember, Web3 is about ownership and you taking back the ownership, right? Double-edged sword is now it's no longer going to be housed in a third party. So what are some of you all, like I call it your crypto security hygiene? Like, as far as the wallets and, custodial, non-custodial based wallets to custodial based NFTs, do you know where it's being stored? Like things like that. Just a little, general kind of knowledge for people to understand that nuance as well, to really hone in on. Hey, I want to own and make sure that I own my identity, but I also want to make sure that I'm conscious about how I'm now, the onus is on me to secure my data.
Ledger.
Just a ledger.
Get a ledger, yeah.
I like ledger's the best for the big things.
I believe in security. Security is multi-layered. There's no magic key to make something for you people to get into your stuff. But for me, it's 3 levels. It's first on the exchange level, like your wallet. But then from there, you go Trezor, ledgers. But from there, for myself and how I personally guard my funds, is Gnosis Safe. Like, you need a multi-sig wallet. I think that everyone has gotten to the point where they understand ledgers and Trezor wallets, but the next level that everyone really needs to get to is that they understand multi-signature wallets. The difference is that you can hold your money there and have your ledger or Trezor wallet available to move out of, so people don't go in and grab it. Because what's happening is people leave their money in Trezor or ledger, they get socially engineered, and it's gone. A multi-sig is a completely different version of a wallet that's protecting your money, because there's extra steps involved. So I would really encourage people to go one layer deeper than hardware wallets and look into multi-signature wallets.
And just for anyone who is not familiar with multi-signature wallets, my very silly explanation for it is imagine if you went to a bar and it required that all 3 of your friends signed for you to be able to use your debit card. Right. I can't get so drunk that I spend all my rent money at the bar. 2 other people have to co-sign that transaction in order for me to do it.
Absolutely. For our conference 2 weeks ago, all the money was managed in a Gnosis safe that all the founders had to turn their keys in order to operate. So we paid sponsors, we did all the things that way so we can manage it in one place, and it's completely transparent. We could actually, I could show it to all of you right now, just to show all the transactions.
Thank you. All right, so I'd like all the panelists to tell us where we can find them.
So guys, you can Google Equity Coin. I think the theme for this is community. So I hope everybody can follow us on Instagram at Equity Coin. We just got featured in Afrotech, which is cool. And our first crowdfund ends in a few hours. So that's pretty cool. Seed at the Table, it's SEED at thetable.com is the crowdfund, Black-owned crowdfund platform. So yeah, I can't wait to connect with you guys again.
You can find me at DeFiPhilly.io, which is the community that I run with 3 other people, as well as my company, ma8.company. You can find all my information there.
Black Web Fest, blackwebfest.org. You go to blackwebfest.com too. Either way, and on all social media.
You can find me at Nicole, Nicole H. Tay, and that's on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. or you can find me on TikTok at Decentralized Future, where I do a lot of decentralization education.
Love that.
And that was good. I can say my Twitter. It's probably easier. DeFi Sherpa, if you can find me there. I always forget to say that. It's smart.
And you can find me at ASHMCAI. Sorry, that's a lot of letters. It's Ashton K. On all platforms. And I just started TikTok for Web3 education as well, so I'm very excited.
Nice.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
All right, so can you say yes to free crypto? All right, so we are giving away free crypto, and we're giving away 2 cryptocurrencies today. One is from Nair, and another is from Uniswap as well. The Nair would be the easiest. So Joanna, if you could come to the front, she's going to tell you a little bit about Nair NYC, and then also how you can get some Nair token. All right, so please.
Hi, everyone. Did you all love the panels today? Yes. I want to say a big thank you to Jeff for organizing this. I just see such a bright future for Barbershop Speaks, Crypto Convos, and to each and every one of you panelists. Like, I got goosebumps listening to you. And it's because this room, the people that are here are the future of what this space means, of what blockchain means, of what our decentralization revolution means. And these are the people that need to have a say in where we are going. And so to lead up to our free tokens, which I know you guys are all excited about, and we talked about what the utility of tokens are and what kinds of value propositions we derive from these different tokens and currencies. And I just want to explain really quickly that so there's the Nair Foundation, and Nair NYC is actually a community that is focused on providing education, technical and more just general, on this space. And so I want to thank you all for being here, because you are providing that education, and this is what we want to bring in New York to every single corner of the 5 boroughs and beyond. We don't want to be just at the fancy rooftop bars in Midtown, like talking about how many Lamborghinis we're going to buy with the speculative activity that goes on in the market. It's so much beyond that. So at Nair NYC, we do salsa socials. A couple of blocks away, we did one at a great restaurant and a Mexican restaurant. And we want to bring in elements of what it actually means to be in a community. What matters to people, to all groups of people. And so I just want to also say thank you to the Black community for being the pioneers that are going to make this world much more equitable, safer. And in reality, all of these problems that exist, I liked the running water example, because I lived in Brazil for a couple of years in the Northeast, where it's one of the poorest regions, and the communities I worked with, most of them didn't have running water. Like I'm gonna get into tears, because I worked in early childhood research and trying to find ways to empower parents to help them in their journey, with their kids, because the kids are the future. Yeah. That early childhood is one of the most important phases in our lives. And what Nicole said about how certain projects and programs don't get recognized unless they bring a buck to someone, it resonates so much, because I started an online mentoring program through this Early Childhood Research Center, and we weren't able to get the funding because it's actually not advantageous for the people who have the top. The Gini coefficient is the highest in all of Latin America. Brazil is the most unequal country. It's the 9th in the whole world. So people don't want that education. They don't want parents to provide better resources for their kids if that means that they're going to kind of question a lot of the norms and the structures. And it's something I've been grappling with and struggling, but I think that it starts in rooms like this. So with this token that you guys will receive, I have my colleague Mike. He's also a project founder, and he actually has a really cool
project called Universe Platform, and it's exactly to reach to small businesses and kind of provide them that access way to engage their clients in a way that makes them able to choose and kind of have that ownership over their experience as well. So if you guys want to talk to him about that, you want to get your business linked up, please do so. And we have our Near NYC banner. That's our Telegram and, that is our site. So you can join our Telegram group if you're in New York. Please, we want to hear your thoughts on what kind of education you want, what kind of social events. We try to do various things. Like I said, salsa socials, we're going to go hiking. We want to really connect people to what it means to be human.
Thank you for everyone who came, everyone who spoke, everyone who invested, everyone who poured into Barbershop Speaks, into Crypto Convos to make this happen. We are forever in your debt, and we deeply appreciate it. And what we ask of you is that you will continue to learn about crypto. This was just an introductory session for you to learn about what it is, get you interested, spark that desire to learn more, and hopefully you can take this experience and bring it to your friends, bring it to your family. But then also, I hope that you will continue to learn as well. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank all of you. The time to learn about crypto is now. The time to start investing in your future is now. The time to get educated about this space is now. And you are doing just that by coming in this room. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And may you all have a wonderful evening.